There was a time when movies couldn't be accessed with a click on digital platforms, when cinema came to our homes in big black boxes, VHS tapes, video rental shops, and family movie nights. This was the golden age of videotapes, the triumphant era of home cinema. You didn't have to go to the cinema or wait for a broadcast on television to watch a movie. Movies were now at your fingertips, in the shop on your street. But everything had a price. Everything had a ritual. Everything had a story. Do you remember the day you got your first video cassette player? That big one? That enormous device, that heavy black box, was the most prized possession in your home. The buttons you fiddled with for hours. Play, stop, rewind, fast forward, eject. Each one was a gateway to a world. Setting up the cassette player was a ceremony. Adjusting the cassettes, connecting the cables, placing it on the television, and that first moment you inserted a cassette, that mechanical sound, that slight click, that magical moment. The image that appeared on the screen, that shaky, characteristic VHS image quality, those faint lines, that nostalgic feeling, it was all an experience, an adventure. Video rental shops were the coolest places back then. That unique smell that greeted you when you walked in, that mix of plastic and cardboard, that dusty air, shelves stretching from wall to ceiling, thousands of cassettes, thousands of films, thousands of stories. Action movies on one wall, comedies on another, dramas on a separate shelf. Each genre had its own corner, each corner its own atmosphere. And wandering among those shelves, picking up the cassettes, looking at the covers, reading the backs, it was a discovery, an adventure, like a treasure hunt. Renting cassette tapes was an art, a strategy. You'd spend hours thinking about choosing the best movie for the weekend. Were you going to watch it with your family or your friends? Did it have to be a film everyone would like, or something that only appealed to you? Popular films sold out quickly. The new releases shelf would empty rapidly, so you had to go early. You had to catch the right time. Sometimes you'd have a cassette in your hand, and just as you were about to rent it, someone else would snatch it. The disappointment, the sadness, the sorrow. But then you'd find another treasure, make another discovery. Rewind gently was the message on every cassette, on the wall of every shop. Rewinding a rented cassette after watching it was a courtesy, a matter of etiquette. But not everyone did it. Not everyone followed the rules. Sometimes you'd get unwound cassettes, films that started in the middle, stories that began at the end. Then you'd rewind them yourself with that famous pen, that classic method, that characteristic look of rewound cassettes, that neat, perfectly wound tape. A job was done, a task accomplished. Friday nights, especially during the winter months, watching a movie together as a family was a tradition, a ritual. Throughout the week, they'd talk and debate about which film to watch. The father usually wanted an action movie, the mother a drama, and the children a comedy. And in the end, a decision was made, usually an agreement, and it would be a choice that pleased everyone somewhat. Popcorn was made, tea was brewed, blankets were prepared, and at 9 o'clock, everyone settled into their seats, the lights were turned off, and the movie began. While watching a movie, the phone would stop ringing, the doorbell wouldn't ring, the world would stand still. There was only you and the movie, only you in that story. Sometimes someone would want to go to the restroom, but it was always postponed, always let this scene finish. Because stopping, rewinding, and restarting was torture, a struggle. That's why movies were watched from beginning to end, without commercials, without pauses, without interruptions. It was actually an advantage. It was an experience. It was a commitment. The labels on the cassettes, those handwritten notes, those dates, those names, watched as a family, with friends, dad watched. Each cassette had a history, a memory. Some cassettes were copied using that famous copying with 2 VCRs technique. Copying a movie from a friend's cassette onto your own, that illegal but innocent act. Duplicated cassettes, labels with copy written in handwriting. Everyone did it. Everyone knew about it. Building a film archive was a passion, a hobby. Shelves would fill with tapes, organized, categorized. Action, comedy, drama, horror, science fiction. Each genre had its own shelf, each shelf its own arrangement. Sometimes friends would come to borrow tapes, asking, "Can you lend me that movie?" And you would choose, carefully, which ones to lend and which ones to keep, because every tape was valuable, every tape was special, every tape was a memory. Cassettes would deteriorate over time, the image quality would decrease, lines would appear, colors would fade, but even that had character. It was nostalgia. That shaky image, that slight noise, that feeling of old films. Before digital perfection, it was the beauty of analog intimacy. You wouldn't throw away damaged cassettes, you'd repair them and watch them again and again, because those cassettes held memories, those cassettes held emotions, those cassettes held life. You knew the employees at the video stores, and they knew you. "You again?" they'd say, smiling. They'd offer suggestions, saying, "You might like this too." Sometimes lists were made for newly released films. Reservations were made in advance. That anticipation, that curiosity, that excitement. You were going to be the first to watch the film when it came out, the first to review it. It was a privilege. It was a status symbol. It was a source of pride. Now, when I look back, there are thousands of movies on Netflix and Amazon Prime, accessible with a single click, but that excitement is gone. That sense of discovery is gone. That anticipation is gone. Everything is so easy, so readily available, so instantaneous. Stopping a movie and continuing it the next day, watching something else, being indecisive, it wasn't like that back then. Choosing a movie was a decision, a commitment, an experience. Perhaps what we miss most is being together as a family, watching things together. Now everyone is in their own room, on their own device, in their own world. But back then we would gather around a movie, laugh together, cry together, be scared together. That experience was shared. Those memories were created together, and those memories are still in our minds. Those memories are still alive. Those memories are still precious. Yes, the VHS era is over. DVDs came and went, and now we're in the streaming age. But those tapes, those rental shops, those movie nights, they all live in our memories. And we are here to remember those beautiful days, those innocent experiences, those precious memories, because to forget means to lose. And we don't want to lose those beautiful memories, those valuable times spent as a family. Perhaps while watching this video, you too are recalling your own VHS memories. The first movie you rented, the first family movie night, the smell of that rental shop, the feel of those tapes. That's why we're telling these stories. That's why we're remembering them. Because these stories aren't just ours. These stories belong to all of us. These stories belong to a generation. And these stories shouldn't be lost, shouldn't be forgotten. They should be kept alive. Because cinema is unforgettable. Because memories are eternal.